Hello Tamers, Cyberdraw back in day, and we're on to our penultimate deck list for our countdown towards EX10 Sinister Or's release, with today's topic being the newly upgraded Omnimon deck following BT22, as it gave it quite a number of tools to make it quite an impressive deck in the meta right now. Since we end up getting some new line to allow for the deck to climb pretty effectively. Since, once again, it's pretty on topic considering that Omnimon did have a key role in Cyber Sleuths. And well, before we crack into it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this around to help with the algorithm. And without further ado, let's get this started. And starting off with the egg deck, so far the common consensus has been landed on BT22 Suimon as the main egg, since it's a draw engine that has the least risk attached to it compared to the old red Koromon that we know and love. Since for the Suimon's draw inherent, it just needs the stack to see another CS trait being played out, with this egg definitely allowing for the deck to run on a more flexible rookie lineup, which we segue into. Starting out, front-ending the rookie lineup, it's mostly all searching rookies. That being a 4-3-2 split between BT22 Gabu, EX4 Black Gabu, and EX4 Black Agu, with the main searcher being BT22 Gabu, allowing you to grab out any card that mentions Omni in its text, and then one CS trait, which a good amount of the deck lineup is, for the most part. And then both the X4s, allowing themselves to grab their respective evolutionary names, as well as grabbing any name of the partner and Omnimon. Though keep in mind, the X4s end up putting the unsearched cards back to the top of the deck instead of to the bottom of the deck. Then for, rounding off the rookie lineup, being all utility in the form of 3 copies of the BT22 Agu and Structure Deck 20 Agu, to round off the, team even in terms of Agus, with BT22 Agu being a on-play, able to recur back a Digimon with WarGreymon, Garurumon, or Omni name, and SC20 here being the giveaway of the deck's gimmick, since you're pretty much warping into your level 6s, without going into WarGreymon and Gabu into MetalGarurumon respectively, with Agu here allowing it to play out cheaper as the cheapest evolution into WarGreymon, since that ends up being 4 cost as long as the opponent is sitting on a 10,000 DP body, or you have 3 unique colors and Tamers. And then inherent-wise, both BT22 Gabu and Agu have in return DNA effects, while the X4 get to refund you back 1 memory whenever the stack sees another Digimon on your side Digivolve. And then C20 Agu here, granting reboot to its stack. And as I already mentioned, we end up skipping all the way to level 6 for the Digimon lineup. And for me, it ends up being a 3-3 split between the old BT17 versions and the new BT22 versions of MetalGarurumon and WarGreymon. Going into the new stuff really, since it enables the deck to be a lot more efficient now, both BT22 CS, MetalGarurumon, and WarGreymon can warp over their respective rookie forms as long as you have a Nokia on board at a more expensive cost of 6. Though you then get to trigger off their effect depending on what you need. I'll cover that after introducing BT17s, since they are more so a drop happy one, since they only can come out on a reduced cost to hard play. Though with WarGreymon here, you're able to use Structure Deck 20 Agu to at least Digivolve into it for one more cost, well, for one more memory compared to from level 5 to level 6, which ends up being a good option. Since from there, both versions can then, on Digivolve, for their optional Digivolve the partner rookie into their respective level 6 forms. With BT17, MetalGarurumon able to stun one opposing Digimon or Tamer, while BT22 here ends up bouncing opposing Digimon to hand, well, opposing lowest level Digimon to hand. WarGrey here being able to hit, blow up a 8000 DP or less Digimon, while BT22 blows up the lowest level on the opponent's board. With both versions having the same inherent for an Omni name. The MetalGarurus allowing Omni to unsuspend when attacking, and then both WarGreys allowing Omni to burn away the top security while on attack. And that's it for the level 6 lineup. Now on to the main man himself and his many variations. And starting us off, for regular Omnis, we're running 2 copies of Omni Ace and 1 copy of BT22 Omni. Since this lineup ends up being pretty useful, Omni Ace definitely being another useful tool if you pass turn and don't have both MetalGarurumon and WarGrey on board to go into, you can then threaten a Omni Ace in hand as what instead. Since Omni Ace is practically a powerhouse in himself, being able to raid and be a blocker with the effectively one Digivolving effect. If DNA'd, you get to choose one opposing Digimon and return it and all same level Digimon to the bottom of the deck, then delete one opposing Digimon, which coming out as an ace definitely ends up being quite interruptive since it's practically a near board wipe, or can be an aggressive play if you need to go into it. Well, BT22 here definitely seeing some niche uses, since it's more so a pretty tanky blocker, really. Since it ends up having also a useful recursion in the form of 2 forms of decode. Decode black or red level 3, and a decode blue and yellow level 3. With a one attacking effect, since you'll likely be going for that, really, to essentially delete one opposing Digimon with the lowest DP. And it doesn't have a once return clause, so it pairs well with the unspend from MetalGarurumon. With a one Digivolving, specifically one DNA, well, not really one DNA, since as long as it sees 2 same level sources in itself, it gets to return 1 opposing Digimon for each, and then may allow itself to attack. Thus allowing you to bounce it bot decks 2 opposing Digimon when it enters board through DNA, and then effectively can attack afterwards. Then from there, we end going for the main header for the deck, that being the EX9 Omni Ultra S. Since it actually can play, since it plays well with the deck, needing a level 6 blue and a level 6 red to DNA into, and thus you end up triggering all of its host of effects that has now made Omni so prevalent in the meta. Since when DNA digivolving, it gets to become unaffected by opponent's effects until the end of the turn, then deletes all of their Digimon with the highest level. Which ends up being a clear way to, well, come out and clear board, or at least triple it by getting rid of their strongest Digimon on board. And then you have the end of attack, which ends up playing into a really nice chain for the deck. Since at the end of a attack, you can declare the effect to then spit back out a Guru or Greymon name, which ends up being MetalGarurumon and WarGreymon, obviously. To then also put this top source into the top of security, thus allowing you to spit back out and trigger the on-play most of the on-plays of the BT17 versions, while also stacking effects, since you then effectively spit back out the used inherits to then lead into another Omni play, since you then can DNA once again if you keep turn, to then reuse those effects. And to close us out, on Digimon, I run the one copy of EX4 Ultra B, which effectively is a closer since most of your uses definitely can only go over all of your Omni names as the only way to bring it out for 2 cost. And on Digivolve, it dishes out a DDG3 on the opposing, on one opposing Digimon, and then deletes up to 6 total play costs worth of opposing Digimon. Then, on attack, if you can trash up to 3 level 6 or higher sources from itself, and then deletes the lowest play cost Digimon and Tamer of each for each card you trashed. Then if you trash 3 cards total, you get to trash up to 2, trash the top 2 opposing security as well, thus allowing it to be, close out games by practically burning through all those level 6, WarGreymon, MetalGarurumon, and Omni sources to then do a lot of damage. And that's it for the Digimon lineup. Now on to Tamers, which ends up being a full playset of the new BT22 Nokia, copy of EX9 Tie and Matte, and 3 copies of BT17 Tie and Matte. Since pretty much these names effectively allow you to do a whole lot of the warping shenanigans for the deck. And Nokia being the main enabler, since she is needed for the BT22 level 6s to digivolve over their respective rookies. As well, she ends up being a memory star for the deck, and grants a star main and on-play effect that whenever you're sitting at 1 or fewer Digimon on board, you're able to play out a Agu or Gabu from hand while paying their cost. Pretty much doing a Man-Tai dual Tamer shenanigans, a Davis Ken situation, so allowing you to cheat out any of your partner rookies, onto the board for effectively no cost every turn, with an alternates buff to your WarGreymon and Guru names for an extra 1,000. Then continuing down, the X9 Man-Tai being a recursion on play to allow you to grab back a Greymon, Guru, or Omni name trash, or if you don't choose to grab out anything from trash, you get to draw 1. With it more so being a recursion piece and a slightly weaker version of the BT17 one. Since it also has the same alterns as that BT17, since both will, whenever they see a Digimon, well, being played or Digivolved up, you get to suspend them down, and then gain 1 memory if you have a Greymon name on board, and gain 1 memory if you have a Guru name on board, thus allowing you to have a lot more of a memory buffer given these effects, with BT17 here being the main one, and the fact that it has the end of turn effect to allow your Omni names to immediately attack, which ends up playing into the aggro strategy, considering that you have end of turn DNA effects to immediately go into your Omnimons, and to run a Tamer lineup, and to play into our ST20 Agum, I run a full placement of BT22 Mirai Mikagura. Since this new Mirai also ends up being a draw engine, since you're on play, allows you to trash for the most part in this case, a CS trait for draw 2. While also having the neat start main effect to bounce yourself to the bottom of the deck to play out, in our case, most of the time, Nokia from hand, thus allowing you to set up, if need be, to then set up a Nokia for reduced cost. And that's it for the Tamer lineup. Now on to options, which ends up being the smallest ratio in this deck, since it ends up being the very broken Miraculous Mega Knight option, as well as the 1 copy of Island Adventure, with Miraculous Mega Knight here definitely being powerful in its own right, since its main effect allows you to bring back out a Agu or Gabu from hand or trash while paying their cost, and then its delay effect being what makes it so broken for this deck, since whenever any of your level 6 Digimon that's Greymon or Garou in name will leave the battle area and gets to blow itself up, to then prevent that deletion and immediately DNA with another Digimon in hand into Omnimon, thus giving protection and seriously speeding up your board by bringing out Omni, as well as then triggering that Omni's when Digivolving when it comes out, with the neat security effect to also cheat out a Tamer from hand or trash as a security effect, while also adding itself to hand, with that also being followed up by Island Adventure to pretty much be a early play to start establishing Tamers early, since, for the most part, you play it out, and it allows you to replace the top card of your security with itself, also granting everything on your side that's level 3 or higher with a plus 2000 DP buff. Though the main idea is for that security effect, since once checked in security, it gets to play out any Tamer from your hand paying their cost. Thus, the main idea is to, use this to throw in a Tamer on board. And that's it for the deck itself. Now on to combos. And as usual, before going into combos, we're going over starting hand, which the main idea is, given the deck's main idea is to seal its pieces for your explosive plays. You definitely want to at least see at least a utility rookie, at least 2 rookies, more ideally being BT20 as a rookie to evolve in the back, and then the rest being your searching. And then from there, it all pertains to helping set up, since the likes of Island Adventure and Miraculous Mega Knight being able to help start off your start off your board, with Island Adventure definitely being established to cheat out a Tamer pretty early on, and Miraculous Mega Knight effectively letting it play out you're searching rookies at reduced cost of 2, starting out. And from there, preparing to see any of your Tamers to be established early on. With Mirai definitely being an early Tamer you'd want to set up early. Depending on how your hand looks, you could also choose to pitch something away to recur later on, to then establish for a Nokia later on. There, it's just seeing a WarGreymon and MetalGarurumon, ideally a mix between a BT22 copy, BT22 version, and BT17 version, for the likes of your Omni plays, mostly Alter S to make full use of BT17 iterations, and then Alter B as your lowest priority to see in your opening hand, since once again it's more so of a closing piece. And now on to the combos. For combos, most of your plays pretty much occur once you have a established board, since you end up doing a lot of your plays once you have all the materials set up to pretty much run through the opponent. Well, established board, pretty much looking, well, obviously with the first combo, definitely seeing the likes of Nokia Mirai, Nokia, Tai and Matt, and then Mirai to enable ST20 Agu plays to pretty much warp into either WarGreymon to then trigger off their effects. And if a Gabu, any of your Gabus were on board, and you see a MetalGarurumon in hand, then those Gabus can then get you up for free, effectively only doing a 4-cost play turn, and effectively going from there to climb your board, since on an established board, preferably with Nokia and the BT17 time mat, you get plays like this as your 2 stacks can become Alter S, and then Alter S will then proceed to swing on suspend off of either MetalGarurumon inherits, while also burning away 1 security from the WarGreymon inherit. Then from there, you can choose to swing again, going for effectively clearing out 3 checks now, trigger off its main effect, spinning out either copies of WarGreymon and spinning out a WarGreymon and MetalGarurumon, ditching the rest of the source, and then proceed from there. Since once you've established that, with the BT17s, definitely taking the most use of the EX9 Ultra S, since you then get to trigger off their on-play effects. And from there, pretty much you can just go into fresh Ultra S, or go into any of your other Omnimon in hand. Since for the most part, it's making full use of once your established board to then, can you pretty much bring out a pretty big blocker that can answer good amount of your board, good amount of the opponent, since you're pretty much already at the high end pretty fast, considering all other conditions are met. And once again, Alter B definitely being your main closer for the deck for any plays once you see it, since just digital over any Omnimon name and swing in to attempt to finish game off, since you end up doing a whole lot of removal through just going into it itself and then finishing up for the low. But overall, the deck's pretty much fairly straightforward in sense of just going pretty unga bunga with the big body pretty fast. Since the main crux of this deck is definitely all the setup. Since most of your plays do hinge off of Nokia, well, pretty much most of your Tamers really. Since, well, if you want to get the cheapest evolution up of chains, definitely seeing your, well, copies of Tamers on board. Since once again, you also have the likes of BT17 Manti, allowing your Omni names to also attack the end of at the end of turn, since that play line is enabled through the end of turn DNA inherits. But yeah, that has been my look at Omnimon in the from the BT22 format. And well, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this around to help keep up with my work. As we end off this countdown towards EX10 Sinister Order's release. And this is Sarja signing off.